All right, we're going to jump right in and walk through the final days of the Apostle Paul's freedom. And believe me, it's a journey straight into a perfect storm of controversy that ends with his dramatic arrest in Jerusalem. So yeah, let's get into it.
I mean, this is the big question, right? Why would anyone do that? Today, we're going to follow Paul's final trip to Jerusalem. And what's wild is that at basically every single stop, he gets these very specific and increasingly scary warnings about what's waiting for him. It's just a gripping story about incredible conviction, staring down certain danger. Okay, so this timeline really shows you how the tension starts to build. I mean, on the surface, it looks like a pretty standard trip for back then, right? You're hopping from one island to another, causes to Rhodes, you catch a bigger ship, totally normal. But, as we're about to see, with every single stop, those spiritual storm clouds over Jerusalem just get darker and darker. And here it is, the first big warning. It happens in Tyre. Now, this wasn't just some friendly advice like, hey, Paul, you might want to rethink this. No. The text says the disciples there felt compelled through the Spirit to tell him not to go. And they pleaded with him for a whole week. But Paul, he just wasn't budging.
So then, in Caesarea, the warnings go from just words to something you can see and feel. This prophet, Agabus, shows up and basically puts on this piece of street theater. He grabs Paul's own belt, ties up his own hands and feet with it, and then delivers this absolutely chilling and super specific prophecy. I mean, you can't get much clearer than that, right?
And this is where you really feel the emotional weight of it all. You've got everyone around him, his friends, the people he's traveling with, they are literally breaking down, crying, begging him not to walk right into this obvious trap. But Paul's response? It's just rock solid. For him, this isn't some danger to run away from. It's his mission. It's what he has to do no matter what it cost him. So Paul finally gets to Jerusalem, and he's basically walking straight into a powder keg. There's this really dangerous rumor floating around about him, and his plan to try and calm things down, well, it's about to do the exact opposite. It's going to light the fuse. Right, so the local church leaders are super concerned. They pull Paul aside and they're like, look, there's a rumor going around that you're teaching Jews to abandon the law of Moses. So they hatch a plan. The idea is for Paul to publicly join these 4 guys who are under a religious vow and go through the purification rites with them at the temple. It's supposed to be this very visible public display to prove, hey, look, I still respect the law.
But, oh man, did this plan backfire. And I mean spectacularly. While Paul's in the temple doing his thing, some guys from Asia, who already have it in for him, they spot him. And they just start screaming, leveling this insane 2-part accusation that he's against the Jewish people, against the law, and he's defiled the holy temple.
Okay, so let's break down why this accusation was basically like throwing gasoline on a fire. See, according to temple law, non-Jews, Gentiles, were absolutely forbidden from entering the inner courts. The penalty was death. Now here's the thing. His accusers didn't actually see him bring anyone in. They just seen him earlier in the city with his friend Trophimus, who was a Gentile, and they just assumed. But in an atmosphere that tense, an assumption was all it took. And that accusation worked exactly like a spark in a tinderbox. The whole city just explodes into an uproar. People come running from everywhere. A mob forms. They grab Paul, drag him out of the temple, and they just start beating him, trying to kill him. Everything Agabus prophesied, it was happening right there and then. Okay, so just as the mob is about to literally kill him, Roman soldiers from the nearby fortress see the commotion and charge in. They arrest Paul, which ironically saves his life, and they start carrying him away through all the chaos back to their barracks. Now get this. As he's being carried over the heads of this violent crowd, Paul does something that's just incredible. He asks the Roman commander if he can speak. Not to the commander, but to the very people who were just trying to murder him seconds earlier. He wants to answer the one question on everyone's mind. Why do they hate him so much? So there he is, standing on the steps of the barracks, and he just lays out his case. He starts by building common ground, right? Hey, I'm a Jew, just like you. I was born in Tarsus, educated right here in Jerusalem by the great Gamaliel. He even reminds them that he used to be just as zealous as they were, persecuting followers of this way. But then he pivots. He tells them his incredible conversion story, the blinding light on the road to Damascus, the voice from heaven, and he reveals his new mission, I will send you far away to the Gentiles. And the crowd was actually listening.
They were hanging on his every word, right up until he said it. Gentiles. That one word. The second he mentioned his mission was to them, the whole place just exploded all over again. The Roman commander, now more confused than ever, decides, all right, I'm going to get some answers the Roman way.
And the Roman way, in this case, meant flogging. I mean, this was a pretty standard interrogation technique for them. It was a brutal whipping meant to get a confession, or in this case, to just figure out what on earth Paul had done to make a crowd this angry. But just as the soldiers are stretching him out, getting ready to tie him down, Paul, very calmly, plays his ultimate trump card. He looks at the centurion and asks a simple legal question, a question that was about to change absolutely everything. And yeah, this was the game changer. You have to understand, Roman citizenship was like a legal superpower back then. It was a shield. It meant you had the right to a fair trial and you were exempt from being tortured or flogged without being found guilty first. The commander, who mentions he had to buy his citizenship for a huge amount of money, was absolutely terrified when he found out he was about to illegally flog a man who was born a citizen. Everything just stopped, dead in its tracks.
So the commander is totally baffled, and now he's in some serious legal hot water. He tries a new tactic. The next day, he hauls Paul before the Sanhedrin, the Jewish High Council, basically hoping they can finally tell him what this is all about. So Paul's standing there in front of all his accusers, and he just brilliantly reads the room. He sees that the council is made up of two major rival parties, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And he knows they have this one huge fundamental disagreement that they can never get past, the resurrection. And he decides, you know what? I'm going to use that. I mean, this is just pure tactical genius. He shouts out, "Brothers, I am a Pharisee, a son of Pharisees," and then he completely reframes the entire reason he's on trial. He says the real issue here isn't about the temple or the law, it's about the hope and the resurrection of the dead. He throws out the one topic he knows will split them right down the middle. And it worked like a charm. The whole assembly just erupts into a massive argument. You've got the Pharisees jumping up to defend Paul, shouting, "We find nothing wrong with this man," while the Sadducees are just losing their minds. It got so heated, so violent, that the Roman tribune had to send his soldiers in to rescue Paul for a second time because he was afraid the council was literally going to tear him to pieces. Okay, so the mob failed. The High Council failed. With all the legal channels completely falling apart, Paul's enemies decide to just ditch the rulebook entirely. They turn to a much, much darker plan. And we're not talking about a couple of angry guys. This was a full-blown conspiracy. More than 40 men banded together with one single deadly goal in mind: to assassinate Paul. And to make it official, they sealed their pact with this solemn oath, swearing they wouldn't eat or drink anything until Paul was dead. The plan was simple. They'd get the council to ask the Romans to bring Paul back for more questioning, and then they would ambush him on the way and kill him. But there was a leak. Paul's own nephew somehow overheard the entire plot. He manages to get word to Paul inside the Roman barracks, and this sets up the final dramatic showdown. You have a secret assassination plot in motion, but now the target knows they're coming. So the real question is, what happens when a divine mission runs head-on into a deadly human plot?